Welcome to Mrs. E English Skills. I'm Mrs. E and today we're looking at Functional Skills English Level 1, Session 1, Reading Strategies. What is Functional Skills English Level 1? Well, this qualification is roughly equivalent to a Grade 3 in GCSE English or a D in the old grading system. It provides a stepping stone to Level 2, which is equivalent to a Grade 4 in GCSE or a pass. This used to be a Grade C when I went to school. So how is it assessed? Well, there are 2 online or paper exams depending on your preference, and they are reading and writing. And there is 1 in-class assessment, and this is speaking, listening and communicating. This video contains the reading paper only. Check out my other videos in my Functional Skills Level 1 playlist to practice the other components. First of all, think about how you read. Do you adapt the way you read for different types of texts? How would you read a novel versus an advertisement? Or a recipe versus a Facebook post? Well, there are 3 reading styles or strategies. Using all 3 will help ensure you use the time given in your reading exam effectively, and this will lessen the probability of you running out of time during this exam. And we're going to look at the 3 different types of reading strategies today, and we're going to apply question types that you may be given to each reading type. Reading strategy number 1, skimming. When you skim a text, you look over it quickly and you decide whether it's interesting or relevant and whether you want to read it in more detail. Texts that you might skim are newspapers or magazines. You might be looking for something to read and a title or a picture might grab your interest and make you want to read on. Also, scrolling through social media, things like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you often scroll through for a while until something catches your eye and then you look into it in more detail. When you skim read, you should look out for images or titles that will help you determine quickly what a text is about. An exam question might ask you, what is the purpose of this text? And that can be established through skimming. Also, notice keywords or phrases to help you locate important sections of the text. Maybe you need to find a certain section in order to find an answer. And always think about the meaning of a text. What is it trying to tell you? What is its topic? It might be helpful to read the first sentence of each paragraph, and that way you can determine whether the information within each paragraph is relevant to you. It's important to remember you are not reading the text, you are simply looking over it to see what catches your eye. So let's have a go at skim reading. For task 1, I will display the next slide for 10 seconds only. Then, after you've skim read the text, I will ask you a question. Remember, you are not reading in detail, just quickly run your eyes over the surface of the text. Are you ready? Okay, so now you've skimmed the text, I'm going to ask you some questions. Don't worry if you can't remember everything, that's not the point of skim reading, but it'll be interesting for you to see how much you took in a short amount of time. Question 1. What is the purpose of the letter? i.e., why has it been written? Question 2. When does the event take place? Question 3. How much does it cost? You can pause the video here if you've not quite finished answering the questions before I reveal the answers. Okay, let's have a look at the answers. So what is the purpose of the letter? Well, the community centre is inviting you to a fundraising event. When does the event take place? Thursday from 10 AM until 2 PM. And how much does it cost? It's £1 for adults and 50p for children. How did you do? Reading strategy number 2, scanning. How is this different to skimming? Well, rather than looking over the page to determine whether you might read the text in more detail, you are looking for something specific. So you have something in mind that you are looking for. You normally scan read text such as timetables, bus timetables and travel timetables. You've got an idea of what time you need to get to a destination, so with that in mind you're scanning for an appropriate mode of transport at a certain time. Cookery books, you're scanning for a certain recipe. Dictionaries, you're scanning for a spelling. So you've got something in mind, a piece of specific information that you're looking for. Now, rather than reading every word, scanning will save a lot of time when reading large text. If you're looking for some information or a reference to put in an essay, for example, rather than read a full textbook, just scan for the appropriate page and then scan for the appropriate paragraph where the reference might be. Some tips then for scanning. Make sure before you start you do have a clear picture in your mind of the information you need. With regard to the functional skills reading exam, look at the wording of the exam question and see if you can find similar wording in the text. This is usually where the answer is. In everyday life, use contents pages, indexes, titles, page numbers and subheadings to identify where the information you need is likely to be. And let your eyes search the text, skipping over anything irrelevant. And remember not to read every word. Okay, let's start scanning. Task 2. Scan the contents page that will appear to the right to find which pages contain the long coastal hikes. Once I put the page up, pause this video to have a go before I reveal the answer. Okay, so the answer is pages 46 to 52. How did you do? Okay, number 2. I'd like you to scan the recipe below to find out how much butter is required. Again, once I put the recipe up, just pause the video to have a go before I reveal the answer. Okay, so the answer is 145 grams. Did you find it? And finally, I'm going to put a timetable above in a second. I'd like you to scan this in order to find out on what day or days are there aqua aerobics classes, and if someone wanted to attend a swim lesson but is only free from 8 PM onwards, on what day can they attend? Once I put the timetable up, just pause the video to have a go before I reveal the answers. Okay, so the answers are Tuesday, Thursday and Friday for the aqua aerobics classes, and Tuesday for attending after 8 PM a swim lesson. How did you do? Okay, so the final reading strategy number 3, is reading in detail. Now, this is what it says on the tin. Reading in detail means reading every word, which will help you get a full understanding of the text. It also allows you to pick out information that you might miss when you're skimming or scanning, and you may also notice how information is presented to suit its purpose. Check out my video on purpose of text in order to look at this in more detail. Texts that require more detailed reading, such as informative or descriptive texts, novels, health and safety policies, these are usually much longer than other types, and they'll have chapters or subheadings that can help you identify which paragraphs contain the information that you're looking for. This is really helpful to know when you're completing the reading paper. It's important to find the right sections, and once you've found the right section for your answer, that part you will need to read in detail to ensure you give the correct answer. Task 3, taken from the Department for Education and Skills, requires you to read in detail. I would like you to read this article, "Man jailed for ice cream assault," and then have a go at answering 3 questions. They are: what caused the fight? What happened to Sean Malcolm? And when was the fight which was believed to be drug related? Pause the video here to have a go before I reveal the answers. Okay, let's look at the answers. What caused the fight? Well, Greg thought he was being overcharged, and I've circled the section of the text that tells you this. What happened to Sean Malcolm? He was sent to prison, and as you can see, I've circled in the title, "Man jailed." Sometimes the answers are in the titles, so you mustn't forget to look there. We get bogged down with looking in the text, in the main body of the text, and if you can't find an answer there, always check titles, subtitles, tab bars, slight sections on the side. As long as there's text, the answer could be there. And when was the fight which was believed to be drug related? Well, it was the 28th of July. Now this is quite controversial, and you may have put the 26th of July, but it all comes down to the placement of the comma, which is here. So to read this section, you would read it as: the incident took place on the 27th of July, the day before 2 other young men were taken to hospital following another fight believed to be drugs related. Because that's a comma, that means the 27th is the day before the other fight. So the other fight must be the 28th. If that comma was a full stop and we started a new sentence with the day before, listen to how it sounds. The incident took place on the 27th of July. The day before, 2 other young men were taken to hospital following another fight believed to be drugs related. See, if that was a full stop, then the answer would be the 26th of July. If you're unsure, check out my other video on commas in order to look at this in more detail. How did you do? Before we finish, I would just like to talk a little bit about reading between the lines. For some questions, they will require you to form your own conclusions in order to answer the question. Unlike the locate and retrieve style of the questions that we've looked at today, when we've looked at scanning, the answers will not be obvious. They'll not be written directly in the text. They will be suggested or implied, and this is called inference. So you'll need to make your own judgment to form an answer to that question. Let's look at an example. I'm going to read a review in a second. As I'm reading it, I want you to see if you can guess whether the guest enjoyed their stay or not. Write down what is suggested but not stated directly. Okay, here we go. I cannot recommend a better hotel for anyone wanting to stay near the action in Blackpool. We could hear the clubs from our room all night, which meant there was no missing the party, even after 3 a.m. And the super thin walls meant that when the neighbours had their television on, we didn't need to bother switching ours on. The full English breakfast didn't include a vegetarian option, despite the website saying it would, so I was able to stick to my diet without the slightest problem. Excellent. Yeah, so all in all, 1 out of 5 stars. Pause the video here to jot down an answer to the question, did the guest enjoy their stay? And try to put down some quotes from the text to support your answer. Okay, let's look at this closely. What we have here is an enthusiastic tone of voice, presenting negative information. Hear the clubs from our room all night, even after 3 a.m. Super thin walls. Didn't need to bother putting our television on, despite the website saying it would have a vegetarian option. And then excellent versus 1 out of 5 stars. So when there's an enthusiastic tone, we would assume positive information to be shared. However, this guest is sharing negative information. So we would say this has got a sarcastic tone. And sarcasm is when you say the opposite to what you think in order to cause offence. I'll look at this in more detail in other videos about language devices and language techniques. But here, rather than write in what they say, you would write what they're suggesting as an answer. And they're suggesting that they didn't, in fact, enjoy their stay. How did you do? Thank you for watching. If you've liked this video, be sure to subscribe, like and share. Check out my other videos to keep improving your English. And if you have any questions regarding the content of this video, just pop them in the comments below. I'm Mrs. E, and I'll see you soon.